Hey everyone! Thanks for listening to Just Start Talking with Stephanie and Melissa. We really hope you enjoy today's show. And if you like what you hear, please find us on Facebook at Just Start Talking and on Instagram at just_start talking. Now, on to the show. We're starting a little different today. Last week, we spoke with Wendell, Melissa's boyfriend, and his involvement with the FLDS. Even though he wasn't really involved with it, he was born into the religion itself. We are going to go from here. He was about to talk about his stepfather. Here is part 2 of our interview.
Go Papa Pie, because we call him Papa Pie. Well, his nickname is Pie John.
Mm-hmm.
When he was younger, he had to wear an eye patch for a few years, and they just started calling him Pirate John.
Aw.
And we all call him Pie John now,
So
or Papa Pie.
when a male was kicked out, a husband, the wife and children were reassigned to a caretaker,
Or a new husband.
and we spent some time with some of Wendell's youngest sisters, who are a lot younger than him, in that he had been out for a while and living life, and they were still stuck here and they wouldn't leave their mom.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking a little bit to us about what it was like to be just put in someone else's home that is not their father. And they had quite the interesting stories for us the other night. Being locked in a room, getting the Bible or a Book of Mormon, what book being read to them? The Bible for how many hours?
Just 4.
4 hours, locked in a room with this man that they wanted nothing to do with.
And my sister, it's funnier than hell. Like, there was a sink in the room.
Well, he wouldn't let them use the restroom.
She kept telling him, it's actually one of our uncles that they were staying with.
Oh.
I don't even know about him. No, none of us like him. He's a piece of shit. So
Mm-hmm.
he was way hardcore religious with it. Same with his wife. They were just like two peas in a pod, I guess. And he was always high on morphine and
He wouldn't let them
preaching
leave.
the gospel. But he wouldn't let him leave the room one day. My sister just told me the story the other day. It's funnier than hell. He was sitting in there, like 4 of them, and he wouldn't let them leave the room because they were being wild and worldly. And they said he kept just reading the Bible back, like one chapter over and over and over and over, just kept reading it. And they were just talking back and forth with each other, amongst each other, didn't really give a shit. But he just kept reading it out loud. And one of my sisters kept telling him, I need to go to the restroom, I need to go to the restroom. But he wouldn't answer, wouldn't even comprehend it or nothing. And she said there was a sink in there. So she just got up. She's like, I'm going to go in the sink. Just got up over the sink and started going. He just freaked out, jumped up and ran out of the room.
He's like, there's no hope for you.
Yeah. There's no hope for you, girls.
How old were they?
She was probably
Their early teens.
Yeah, early teens, just a teenager.
They were at that age where they couldn't leave because
you're
not
questioning
18.
all authority, and especially religious authority.
I mean, they're the younger, like among the youngest of the 36, and they had think about it. They've now seen their older siblings, most of them, leave and move on with life and move on out of the religion,
having families,
traveling, and they're not.
And
they haven't burned. They're fine.
Yeah.
Like everything's fine. But they can't leave because they're not 18, and they still depend. They're children. They still depend on adults to take care of them.
Right.
One sister said that two of them were close in age, and she looked at the one who had turned 18 and she said, can you please wait another year until I'm 18 too and we'll leave together? She's like, I just suffered. Yeah. She said, I suffered for another year, but I mean, she didn't want to be left here alone.
Right.
And wow, like it, I mean, I hope that maybe like we can get more of his siblings and maybe some other people on here to give different perspectives.
It would be a whole different story.
Because like us, who didn't grow up in this environment, every family dynamic is different, and every kid from the same family can have a different experience.
Absolutely.
They all have very different
And
experiences.
it's fun to talk about. Well, not really fun. I mean, it's
It's important.
eye-opening and important, and it helps us grow.
Right.
Hmm.
And everybody from this community that leaves or gets kicked out, and they they go through a little depression. Some of them wouldn't admit it, but they
Mm.
do, just because of what was pounded in their heads so long. And a lot of them, when they first initially leave, they like have second thoughts, and
We're gonna go back.
some of them do. Some of them
Someone come back.
can't can't live without the place and the religion because it's all they've ever known. And
Right.
It's hard. There's a lot of unlearning they have to do
they've
and learning new things that
they've been taught the world's a big bad place, and
not to feel certain
anywhere
emotions.
in the world's a bad place if you let it be.
Right. Do any of your siblings still practice?
Yes, I have six. Yeah, six of them. Three sisters, three brothers. Yeah. But
Some I've never met.
I don't know if they're really practicing. I think they're just playing stupid. Well,
You don't know. You haven't talked to
yeah,
them. They won't talk to us or the other family. Like
yeah, they've
they don't
shunned us.
they don't really
We're shunned to them. Some of them we don't even know where they're
yeah,
at.
they don't know where they
Hmm.
live.
I have a lot of nieces and nephews that are still in it. I've never even met them. And cousins.
I met one of Wendell's brothers by accident. We were hiking and we crossed paths and he said, "Paul?" And that's how we met. But that
I
was
haven't
one
seen
in
him in 11 years, and it's crazy.
he was super friendly, but it's not like he was gonna call us again after that or
Hmm.
Oh,
his contact info. It was just like that. Hi, good to see you. Bye.
And
And
that's
then
one of the ones that's still practicing.
yeah,
yeah.
we don't know where he is. And
Mm.
then the first time I came here when we went to meet his mom in the park, we had pulled up and I was driving the truck and Wendell got really excited and he's like, "That's my sister, that's my sister. Pull up behind them." So we kind of blocked their car in because they were gonna leave when they saw us, no matter
No, they were trying.
they were trying to.
Hmm.
We got out and you could see they were uneasy, but once we started talking, I mean, at the end of the day, they were at more at ease because it was their brothers. Like it wasn't just me
Right.
and a bunch of us going to see his mom, and they just kind of like softened and stayed for a bit and talked. But at first, they really didn't want to. You could see
I
that.
know. They're like, we gotta go. We
We
gotta
got
go.
yeah,
We're busy. We gotta go. I was like,
but
you ain't busy. You just here swinging. You're trying to leave because we just showed up.
yeah, but that was the last. He hadn't seen his sister at that point for 7 years, and that was what 8 years ago. So he
Yeah.
haven't seen her again since. And she was there. What, two of them were there?
Yeah.
Two sisters with their kids. They were really cute. But yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine not seeing or speaking to my siblings because of a outside
So I'm actually,
thing.
we're one of the fortunate families in the community.
Hmm.
Majority of people are shunned and never get, well, their parents will never
Speak.
talk to them again. But that's changed a lot in the last 6, 7 years too, though. Because a lot of people have just
Woken up.
woken up and like, what the hell are we doing?
Right.
Why are we letting somebody control our fucking lives from a jail cell,
Hmm.
prison cell? It's
He did
a
really ugly.
nut job
He did really ugly things.
in the name of God too
Yeah.
and religion. And
He was abusive to kids and everything, right?
oh, like
He molested
horribly.
children.
There's a show on Netflix of one of his daughters that he molested hundreds of times.
Oof.
It's a crazy show.
So we watched.
She's a strong woman.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was doing the show, when she was testifying against her dad and stuff, there was people in this community saying like it's all lies. She's lying because of the devil is controlling her, and I just started like, why the fuck would she lie about something like that?
Right.
Especially it happened multiple times, and one of her brothers had one of his sons, same thing. He was molesting him, but he actually killed himself over it. His son,
Oh.
process of getting help dealing with it, and he just couldn't do it anymore, and he committed suicide. And even with him, the community, well, Warren's younger brothers that were bishops in the religion and shit, they were the ones saying that it's all lies. They're talking about their father, and but it's like, why should I believe you that it's all lies?
Right.
How many wives did he have, Lauren Jess? So every year, it seemed like I'm looking at a picture right now.
Like 82
There's
or
like
some shit. You see that?
Oh my gosh.
wives, and
That's
he. So
only one of the pictures.
as I talk to more and more people living here, getting more perspectives from people outside of Wendell's family, some have explained that some men in this community would have one wife and then get another wife, and every wife would be younger and younger, and it was detrimental to that first wife, like, and her kids kind of being
Mhm.
cast aside for a younger woman. And I mean, it didn't happen like in Wendell's family. What I see and experience is a man. Well, I have never met his dad, obviously, but from getting to know him and his siblings and his moms, his dad was a family man. Like, he loved his wives, he loved his children, he tried to
Every one of
give
them.
all of his children attention. I mean, Wendell and his siblings have told me about how he'd come home from work and he was really tall,
Mhm.
so he'd take them and they'd all line up and he'd swing them through his legs, and then he said they try to hop back on the end of the line to get another turn, like things like that. Like, he was just a dad, and he
Right.
taught them well. He taught them to love their families, to respect each other, to respect like his male siblings. Like, they respect women. Like, they were taught morals and values, and it shows.
Mm-hmm.
Like, learning about other families, it wasn't so uh functional, I should say. There was a lot of dysfunction in a lot of the families,
There's
and
a lot of abuse,
abuse, right?
physical abuse, mental abuse.
Sexual abuse. Like, can you imagine being 18 or 16 and a prophet coming to you saying you need to make yourself worthy of a husband, and then they pick
What
a husband,
happened to Larry?
they pick you a husband and you marry him, and then that night you're in bed with him, and then you're expected to just start churning out children. And I remember asking his aunt, I said, I get, all right, so there's plural marriage, okay? Like, so you want to have more than one wife, to each his own, right?
Mm-hmm.
But why does each wife have to then have children into the double digits? And she just chuckled and she goes, well, Melissa, that's because you women aren't doing your job to repopulate the earth. It was in the name of God to repopulate.
So we're here for is be fruitful, and multiply.
Yeah, and so women weren't afforded the opportunities to then go and get an education or or do anything but become an obedient wife who has a ton of children. And
But what if the woman can't have children?
oh well, what happens there?
Um, I'm not sure.
Does the husband get another wife
Because
then?
my sister that's recently died, she was told that, but then she had two herself,
Hmm.
trying for years. But
Well, her mom only had 2
yes,
kids.
but she was also told she'd never have kids. On McCoy,
So Mama Coy only has 2 kids, but the rest of his moms have, like, your mom
double
has
digits.
what,
My mom has
12?
12.
And then his youngest mom had how many? She had a up in how many kids with your dad, and then had more kids with your stepdad.
11, and then two more.
Yeah.
My stepdad.
Can you imagine putting your body through that?
Some of the women love it. I don't. Some of them really love it. I knew one woman out here that she was gonna have more kids than her mom, and her mom had 18 children.
Holy crap.
Having a kid every freaking year. One year she had two. It was just like, oh my hell, there's more to life than
Babies.
just popping them out.
Wow. Wow.
And how do they support the family? How do they feed all those mouths? And how do they clothe all those children? How did that work?
The family's helping out, and the storehouse through the religion, and
What was the
a lot of it
storehouse?
was homemade. A lot of the clothes were all homemade. A lot of cooking was all done homemade. We grew a lot of stuff, raised farm animals. I used to milk a cow every morning and night for years. I earned farm animals off people. I earned a cow, I earned a pig, I earned a couple horses. I got some free goats. I was a little farm boy when I grew up, and I kind of grew out of it. Oh, eventually, I still garden. I love gardening.
hmm
Awesome. I want to get some horses again because they're just like big old dogs that you can ride.
hmm
But all in all, I don't regret where I grew up, although I can't help it either.
Mm-hmm.
It's made me who I am. Well, that and the experiences,
Right.
what I've experienced. I don't regret it though, because it's gave me good morals and put a good head on my shoulders. It's helped me progress in life more than it hasn't.
Right. Well, certainly you have skills, farming and
Yes.
A work ethic that is unparalleled.
right.
Can't keep up sometimes. Um,
Well, you gotta go if you're gonna get it.
if have people in your travels, and when you tell them where you're from, has anyone ever treated you differently, or
Been
Um,
judgmental, I guess.
yeah?
yeah, but the most judgment I've had is from actual people still in the religion.
Hmm.
First left, I had multiple people calling me. I just had to start ignoring my phone calls and just stop answering because people calling me telling me you're going straight to hell. You know this is wrong. You know this is not what you're supposed to do. My mom, she told me multiple times she wished I'd be dead in a grave instead of the world destroying my life and my salvation. And
That was a long
she's
time.
told, yeah, it was a long time ago. There's no way. She's apologized to me about it now, but just the way she used to talk to me was just, you know, this is so wrong. You know, your father would roll over in his grave. I was like, how do you know, mother?
Right. Well, she was afraid for you.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Good where she was
But I
coming
was
from.
afraid for her on the other
Right.
opposite of the aisle.
Yeah, yeah. So
And I'm glad she's out. I'm glad most of my family's out of it.
Hmm.
There's really not much people left in it. But what it has done, it's kind of ridiculous, is it's made other little tiny religions spring up out of this one, little offshoot religions, and it's just like, come on, people,
Right.
like, give it up and believe in yourself and each other. And I don't know. I'm not religious at all because I've seen religion just destroy people, like literally destroy them.
Destroy families.
Yes.
One of our best friends, he left at the age of 30. I mean, I met him through
Was
Wendell,
best friend.
and just a few years ago, he committed suicide
Out of the blue,
out
out
of
of
the blue.
frick
Oh,
nowhere.
And it's just it's complicated. It isn't like you leave and you can just assimilate into the world. I
Oh no.
mean, a lot of adults who leave at that age, to us on the outside, you would look at them and see a grown adolescent, where they're kind of in that adolescence phase of life.
hmm
And that's kind of where he was at, but had a heart of gold. And there's no reason that he's not here anymore. Like there's no reason. He should still be here. And he's not the only person that
Oh no. Well,
has killed themselves. I mean, I feel
Right.
like this internal like turmoil.
Well, it doesn't sound like mental health was
Mm,
oh, it was shunned. It was
really,
bad.
yeah, there was a big stigma.
yep.
Well, and any like there was older women in this town and stuff with cancers and stuff, and they were just told to have more faith and God will heal them, and
hmm
doctors are evil and witchcraft. It's just crazy.
It is. And there's like we could talk for 3 days. Like I don't know. There's so many corners we can go into, and just so much. It's so complicated. And it's for me, when I he told me, I said, in America? What?
Right.
He told like before he told
Well, it
me,
happens all over the world.
I know, but before he told me where he was from, when he told me I only went to school till 8th grade, I didn't believe him. I was like, wait, what?
hmm
You stopped? And he's like, yeah, I've been working since I'm 13. And he kind of chuckling to himself, like, I'm not lying. But in my, like, it wasn't the time or place to like keep probing him with questions. So I kind of let it go. But I was like, what? Like,
Right.
we were indoctrined to go to school, finish high school, go to college. And so to hear that, I was kind of, what? But I had to let it go because it wasn't the time or place to talk about it. But I ended up getting the answers to my questions. And he's very much telling the truth.
Nothing to lie about.
No.
Right. So, if there are other people around listening that are part of this, although I don't know if they'd be listening to this podcast, if they're part of the like a religion like this, but what would what advice would you give if they wanted to get out but were afraid to?
Just take the leap. Don't be scared. I mean, you're gonna fear anyway, no matter what.
Right.
Scared, but the more I fed into it, the more scared and worried I became.
hmm
And when I finally just made the decision that it's fucking done, like I had to tell my mom that I'm gonna totally stop talking to you if you don't stop crying to me, wanting me to come back because I'm damned. And because every time I would talk to her just right after I left, it was just like, you've got to come back. The destructions are coming. You're gonna be damned. You got to come back and repent. So I just finally told her that I'm gonna totally cut off any contact with you if you don't stop talking about it, mother. Because I'm not coming back. I'm not. I don't want that fucking religion. And
hmm
we didn't talk for a few years after that, but then she finally gave it up and stopped hounding me about it. And yeah, but if you want to get out, you just do it. It'll be the best decision of your life. It was for me.
How did you find security, and how did you find a place to live? Like, did you
Well, I moved into some other ex-Plig kid's house. There was like 9 people living there, and it was kind of like a frat house, really. It wasn't a house, but it pretty much was. Parties, like crazy parties.
You linked up with other people. You didn't
Yeah.
um
Well, it's kind of a thing. It's kind of been a thing for decades as people that leave the community as other older generations ahead of them
take them in.
to help them out and take them in. It's kind of just been a community thing. And it's
Mhm.
kind of weird. Like I could tell if somebody was from this community if we were clear across the nation or world and I ran into somebody that I'd never met. I could tell if they were from
Tell her about
this community.
what you just
Mhm.
told
It's
in
just
Vegas.
weird. Well, when I was in Vegas last March, I was just playing some blackjack, playing a couple of tables. I went around, sat at one. I was the only one sitting there, and then another guy come and sat down right next to the chair next to me. And I looked over at him, and I looked back at my chips. I looked back at him. It's like, "Are you a Jessup?"
That's a common last name here.
He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Are you a Plig kid?" It's like I was. Me too. Just kind of weird. It's not really how they dress, or I don't know what it is.
But they know.
Just in the DNA, I guess.
So they know I'm an outsider.
Just everybody does.
I don't care.
It sounds like a bad say that though.
Well, like we were at the store a few weeks ago and the cashier goes, "You're not from here, are you?" And I'm like, "I'm not." And it's actually coincidentally one of his sister's best friends. So it was really funny. But
Lucretia.
yeah, what I was gonna say also, I forgot.
Well, a lot of people when they
Oh.
first leave, they turn to drugs
Oh yeah, they're
because everything's so taboo
yep.
when you're in the religion. So not everybody, but the majority of the people when they leave, they go through a crazy party phase,
Mhm.
almost like a Amish rumspringer.
Okay.
Lasts a couple years instead of a couple weekends.
Right.
People have
Mm.
become they're susceptible to that.
Yes.
Meth can be a huge problem for some of
But
the.
that's all over the
It
country
is.
too, though, the world.
So he's seen some of that, but being that him and his business partner who co-own a solar company, he's also from here, and he was a little bit a generation older than Wendell, so he kind of took Wendell under his wing when Wendell left and got him employed. Then they started their own business. And now what I've seen is him and Wendell employing a lot of former crit kids in their company. And now they're not kids, they're young men, they're adults. They have been traveling around the country seeing and experiencing things that they would never thought they would.
And they love it.
And they're loving it.
Most of my, well, all of them had never been on an airplane until I hired them.
Yeah.
They
Wow.
across the country, and
yeah, it's really fun. For me, it's been really fun to watch them come out of their shells and really come into their own with their personalities and just spend time with them and get to know them and their stories because they've all got different stories. It's been awesome, like getting to know Wendell and just everything that comes with knowing Wendell.
Mhm.
It's been eye opening for me. Just I've learned a lot about life, and
well, that's a lot to offer.
it does. You let it.
Yeah.
Now, what about you've been to different states and have experienced different things. What are your most memorable experiences? You could share a few, not one in particular, if you have more than one.
Meeting new people, just talking. I didn't like New Jersey. I like the people. I liked some people, but New Jersey sucks. Sorry, New Jersey, but it sucks.
He was in the northern part of New Jersey on the, outside the city on the west side. He was living in the Edison area.
Mm.
One of my favorite, some of the favorite memories are probably from when I lived in New Jersey
Because of the people.
because of the people and
Huh.
New York.
Yeah.
I learned a lot in New York City just from going out and meeting people and
That had to be
partying.
a big cultural shock
Um,
going to New York City.
yeah, it was. I think the first time I actually went, I was by myself. Oh no, I wasn't by myself. I went with a little group, but it was actually more amazing than it was shocking to me.
Hmm.
I was more in awe than shock. Like I love New York City, don't get me wrong, but I couldn't live there. I could not live in that place, but I could visit
Mm-hmm.
every
Right.
weekend.
Hmm.
I used to visit every
Every
weekend, a couple
every
times a
week.
week. But it is a very fun city. That's probably where I have most of my good memories is from when I lived in New Jersey.
Hmm.
I'm living it's they're not from living in New Jersey. They're from
Experience.
the area. I
Hmm.
had good times in Massachusetts too though. Met some really good people there. Our good friend Will and Brittany and Marcus. Hey Marcus. He'll probably listen to this. Melissa will probably make sure he does. Enjoy a bush light for me, Marcus.
Um, yeah, we started our little life there pretty much.
He bought us a house and not done a bunch of renovations, just
8 hours. Well, started to
upkeep and built a nice garden and nice campground and then sold it.
because we decided to come here. That's how we roll.
But and this may not be the last place we go. My business partner asked me just a couple weeks ago if like, so are you guys actually going to settle down there? That's where you're going to stop and settle down and raise a family? I was like, I don't know, Truman. He's like, well,
Hmm.
you're going to at least 10 years, right? I was like, yeah, I don't, maybe. Like, we might get a hair in our ass and move to Costa Rica. Just, he couldn't believe, he still told me just the other day, is like, I still don't believe it, Wendell, that you guys moved in 3 fucking weeks. He's like, clear across the country.
Did it.
You got back, said you're moving, and you did it.
We did.
I still don't fucking believe it. I was like, it's true, Truman. All my shit's here.
And our puppies.
Yeah, that is a crazy. Like, I don't think I've ever heard anybody move that fast.
I know. I still can't believe it sometimes either.
Colorado was nice too, I guess.
You lived there too? Oh, he said he loved Durango, Colorado.
Yeah, that's where I lived, was in Durango. I almost moved to Alaska right before
New Jersey.
I was living in Washington before New Jersey.
Washington State.
Yeah.
What were
But
you doing everywhere? Just different jobs?
mostly framing until I got into the solar industry, the commercial solar industry.
Hmm.
It's just been commercial solar for 11 years, going on 11 years, a little over a decade.
Wow.
And that kind of just presented its opportunity just because of my work ethic.
Right.
People liked how I was, and my
He,
business partner came to me with an offer to start a business with him, and I said, "Okay, let's go."
Mhm.
because he works like a machine. Sometimes he'll say like the crew, like I don't, fill in the blanks, Wendell, but other companies need to come in and do things before his company
Other
starts.
contractors.
Yeah, like other contractors, but they work so fast and the other companies don't, that like they'll literally step in and help the other companies because they're moving too slow. And it's all former cricker kid that they call this town the Crick. So then they call the people from here crickers, but they're all former cricker kids who work like little machines. And when you get a bunch of them together, you get work done fast.
Hmm.
So it's often hard for other people to keep up with them. And it's funny to me. We worked doing work with him, our first garden together. Our neighbors were hysterical laughing because he was like clean, he looked fine. I was sweating, exhausted, and covered. And I was like, what the hell just happened? Like, I got to work with Wendell for a day. It's insane. I can't keep up. Sometimes I have to tell him, slow down. I'm not a cricker. Meh.
Sometimes.
Most every time. Every time.
So now that you're back, Melissa had told me that I guess the government is giving the kids who worked for free land, right?
Yeah. So what the community was, how it was set up was back when the group split off from the Mormon church, and a group of guys got together and they went and they bought a couple thousand acres. It's now it's on the border of Utah, Arizona. It's now a border town. So they bought the land and they put it in a trust with them together, a land trust. And so throughout the decades and years, as the community grew, the religion grew, they were just kind of leasing the property out to all the followers.
Mm-hmm.
And after Warren got arrested, the state actually started investigating it years before Warren was even arrested, because the religious leaders said, you just pay all your taxes to us and we will take them to the state. We'll make sure the state taxes get paid. But they weren't paying the state taxes. They were just taking the money. They weren't paying the state property taxes.
Just pocketing it for themselves.
Yes. So when the state stepped in to dissolve the trust, then there was millions of dollars in back taxes left.
Wow.
So the state first started off with evicting a bunch of people.
Yep.
That were years and years behind in back taxes. And a lot of the people didn't even realize they were behind because
they were paying.
But to the religion. And really, the mail was going to the trust for the back taxes. It wasn't going to the people renting property.
Right.
The state stepped in, and they've been trying to do away with the trust since 2009, 2007. So now what they're doing with there's not much property left really anymore, but for all the kids and the people that grew up here, they're kind of just trying to divvy it out.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really giving it, they're just giving, selling plots and houses for pay up the back taxes and you can take it. So it's a good thing. A lot of the community think it's persecution from the state. Well, because that's what they were told by their leaders. The state's doing this because they're persecuting us because we're the right religion. And I was like, no, that happens when you don't pay your fucking taxes. Then the state comes and takes your shit. And I've had to tell that to a few of the guys that I work with because they've got all up in arms about what the state's been doing in the community. And I'm just like, you guys, I'm like, in the real world, if you don't pay your fucking property taxes, you don't get to stay in your house for years without paying your property taxes.
Right.
It's like they'll show up 3 months without property taxes and they'll just arrest you.
But now, what about the people who were kicked out that thought they were paying? Because that seems a bit unfair if they thought that they were paying it.
A lot of the people left the community, they were kicked out and they moved clear to different states and to repent. I don't know what of. They probably don't even know what of.
Where they just left their house?
Yeah, they just leave. Well, because the houses were all in the trust anyway.
Yeah, so if you drive around this town stuff, you will notice that there are houses that look like they've been forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
There's frames of houses, unfinished houses, because the people who lived in them didn't really own them. So yeah, they didn't really finish them.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was a thing
weird. It's weird.
The property taxes would stay way down if the home didn't look finished.
Oh, so it was just
a lot of times they would just not finish the outsides of the homes.
The inside is beautiful.
Yeah, to make them not look finished, so when the assessors come by. Yeah.
It's not corrupt at all.
This is part 2 of a multi-part episode. Join us next week for our conclusion.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and we really look forward to having you join us again. Take care of yourselves and others, and see you next time.